Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tanner's Favorite Things. I'm Tanner Knight, and today we're going to be talking about this big-ass tom once again. Now, not too long ago, can't say exactly how long ago it was that we talked about this Tama Imperialstar tom. It is an 18-inch in diameter by 16-inch depth. So it's an 18 by 16-inch floor tom, and I'm not going to say that's the biggest they make because I'm pretty sure I've seen 20 and maybe even 22-inch floor toms, which is ridiculous. But this is a massive, big boy, bigger than most of your current floor toms that are coming with more modern kits. You'll see 14 by 14 or 14 by 16, or my personal favorite 16 by 16, which is just the sweet spot for resonance, depth, and projection, as far as you can still get a floor tom that's a cannon if it's 16 by 16. 14, you're pushing it, but you can still do it, but 16 by 16 is my personal preference. But today we're talking about the big boy 18 by 16. So I think after living with this for a little bit, I've discovered what happened with these heads. The Rezo head here is a Remo or a Tama. I think it's a Remo made head, but it's branded Tama. And it's made in the USA, and it looks like a batter head. I don't know exactly what kind it is, but it has been beat to hell. It's got a hole in it, which you'll see here in a second. And I think what happened is they swapped the heads and just slapped a plastic dot in the middle of this, which is a thinner Rezo head. I can't confirm that for certain because I don't know what these Tama made in USA heads are. I assume these are the original 1980s heads, and if they're not the 80s heads, they're certainly 90s and no later than that. So they're old and they need to be swapped. So that's what we're going to do today. We have some Remo pinstripes that we're going to swap on here, but I wanted to kind of offer that as my best guess as to what happened with regards to these tom heads. They were just swapped and they put a plastic here to, you know, keep it from being destroyed as well. So let's go ahead and hear what this thing sounds like in its current state. I tuned it as best as I could, but keep in mind that there's a hole in here that I filled with duct tape and it just looks pretty ghetto. Again, we'll get there in a second, but let's hear what this thing sounds like with just a single SM57 on it. Here is the tom in its current state, semi-tuned. She's got tone for days, even with these whipped heads, so I'm really looking forward to hearing what it sounds like when we swap out both of these whipped heads. So let's take a look at the brand new heads and then we'll swap them out. So as I mentioned, these are Remo heads. I'm becoming a Remo fanboy more and more and more, and I just have not purchased an Evans head in a while, and I haven't really been upset about it. But we do have an Ambassador Clear. I don't know if you can pick up on that. Ambassador Clear for the Rezo head, and a pinstripe clear as well for the batter head. So that's what we got. Let's take a look at these heads. Pinstripe, Ambassador Clear. Okay. These Imperialstars use these kind of extra long tension rods with extra threads on them. Just a ton of tiny, tiny threads. Really nice construction. So just not what this was designed for. So before we get the new head on here, I always like to take the opportunity to take a look at the bearing edge, not the little bear down here who's Jackie, but the bearing edge that is supporting this drum head. And you can see this one's pretty damn slick. The good news about these Zola-coated Imperialstars and Royal Stars, and even the Swing Stars, is that the Zola coat makes for a very tough coating, even on the bearing edge. So it's completely sealed. And then we have the standard Tama Gold screws and washers right there. Let's take a look at the muffler system a little closer. You can see that this is our threaded dial, and you adjust the tension this way or this way, and you engage it with these big kind of fins here. So a nice muffler, probably just not necessary on this big old tom. She resonates just fine and makes it a nice clear note. Let's look at the lugs here while we have them disassembled here as well. These are the Tama Imperialstar slash Superstar lugs. They're the same exact lugs as my Superstar. So kind of cool, nice hardware, and a closer look at this drum. Here's the seam. It's pretty good. It's not coming up at all, nice and flush. This wrap is rock solid, no bubbles, no tears, no weird spots. It looks really good. I always like to hit each tension rod, or at least just the threads of the tension rod, with a little bit of white lithium grease. So let's go ahead and do that. Just a dab will do ya. Got a little too much on that one, so I shared it with the next one. So these lugs are nice and lubed up, and they don't have any gunk in them. Your tension rods should go in very smoothly. You should just be able to rotate them with your fingers to get them pretty much finger tight, and then you can address them with a drum key from there. So I'm just gonna tighten these down a little bit till we can get the fold out of it. I'm gonna go cross pattern because tightening one side tightens the other side. Now in a kind of opposite star pattern, just gonna go until there's just a little bit of tension on the head, just a tiny bit. We just want any ripples to come out of here. All right, with that amount of tension, we should be able to play this drum. And not that I intended to do this, but just to demonstrate kind of the importance of the reso head. I'm gonna leave the bad reso head, which I believe is a thick batter head that, number one, has a hole in it, and number two is a batter head that's been beaten to hell. I'm just gonna leave it on there, and we're going to see what a brand new pinstripe head with the old reso head sounds like. So here we go. All right, let's hear that side by side with the old head and the old reso head, and then we'll go ahead and replace this final reso head and have a brand new feeling drum. All right, so take a look here what we've got. This is our reso head. I just think this is a batter head. Number one, it does have a black dot that looks like it's more kind of built in instead of slapped on there. So I think this is a control sound dot. And yeah, this one's got the hole, the duct tape, and just all kinds of stick beading everywhere else. It's kind of cool sounding on its own, but let's go ahead and get this thing off of here and see what it sounds like with the new clear Ambassador. This is an 8-lug tom, so that's always a nice feature. Lots of lugs on here to make sure the tension is nice and equal all the way around the head. I'm going to take this opportunity to get a screwdriver on every single lug screw. Yeah, this one right here was loose, so I wouldn't be surprised if they all are. This thing is pretty old, 1983 I believe, and every single one of these screws is going to require a little bit of tightening, so we'll speed you through that process. All right, every single one of those lug screws wasn't loose, but it had half a turn in it. And the deal with tightness here is that you want it as tight as possible because you want this to resonate as one single unit. The more things you have shaking, the more rattling and irritating noises you'll get in your pure drum sound. So we want to make sure that these lugs are as secure as possible, or they might back out as well and get even looser and then cause even more damage. So just something to look at whenever you have the reso side of the drum open. All right, let's go ahead and install the head. Same deal, we're going to use the white lithium grease on these lugs here. Okay, I've made each one of these lugs not tight enough to where it's taken the wobble out of this, this head. So now I'm just going to go in the star pattern just until we take all of the wrinkles out. Just a couple here, now we're tighten here. And just those 4 does a pretty good job of it, but 8 lugs, I think it was this one. Oh. Okay, now we're starting to get some resonance in the head. Wow, pretty dang close, I'd say. So without getting the tune bot on here, that's kind of how I like my 18-inch floor tom reso head tuning. Pretty loose. It's just getting the wrinkles out, leaving it relatively loose. Typically I will put a tune on there with the tune bot, but for this purpose, I think this is going to sound really good. So let's just go ahead and make sure we've got our Tama badge front and center. And let's hear what this thing sounds like with 2 new heads. It's already much louder. I have to turn down the gain on the channel for this SM57. It went from about 50 to 45. Well, hot damn, that sounds 100% better. This was already an okay-ish sounding drum with the crappy ancient heads that, again, they were probably from 1983, I think is when this one is from. So they have been around for longer than you maybe, if you are younger than that. So let's go ahead and hear this in the context of the kit. I have been using this one with my Yamaha 5000 series kit because it's actually pretty similar in construction. It's mostly Philippine mahogany, and which is AKA Luan, with 1 layer of beech, allegedly, and this is all Philippine mahogany. So it's just a big old tom. Let's hear it in the context of that drum set.